I wake up at 5. It's still completely dark. I can only hear the sound of the fire crackling and the winds rustling. After a while, I start to hear the whistling of a single bird. It's like that every day. Every day I wake up around 5. It's strange. I expected that the first sunlight, the dawn, would be my alarm clock. But that's not the case. It will be dark for another hour. The place where we usually sleep is already empty. Kwe'elcze is not here. But when I take a closer look, I see his pants, the animal hide he wears on his back, his bow and arrows are still here. Oh, I think I know what he's doing now. The sun will rise today at 6:40 and it will set 20 minutes before 7. A few minutes after 7 it will be completely dark. We are at 3 degrees 35 minutes south of the equator, so the day will last nearly exactly 12 hours. By 9 p.m., the whole village, including me, goes to sleep. It's dark and quiet. No one is working, there are no parties, no one is traveling, just sleep and sex, perhaps. To experience life in a tribe and to discover how to live in harmony with the rhythms of nature, I went to visit the Hadza people. They live east of Lake Eyasi in Tanzania. For as long as anybody can remember, they have been living as hunters and gatherers. They missed the Neolithic revolution, and now they are one of the last remaining hunter-gatherer tribes in the world. It seems to be not a better place to experience conditions in which my nervous system was formed. I will shadow Kwe'elcze, one of the Hadza hunters, all day long. I'm curious about his daily routine, and I wonder how long he works, how long he rests and socializes, and how he regulates his nervous system. Here, in the bush, there is absolutely no electricity, and there is no artificial lighting whatsoever. The only available source of light between sunset and sunrise are the numerous fires that are constantly burning in the village. I have never been in a place in my entire life where the natural rhythm of day and night isn't interrupted or disrupted by either artificial light or sound. I think my parents have never been to a place like this either, nor their parents. I don't think anyone in my family had such an experience in the last 150 years. Kwe'elcze spends his time waiting for dawn in the company of his two friends. It's time for his first cigarette. Around 6:20, when it's bright enough, he leaves his companions to get ready for the hunt. He's checking and fixing the arrows. That's how his workday begins. At this time of the year, the end of August, there's nothing in the bush that fits to eat except for the meat of wild animals. No edible plants grow here during the dry season. The Hadza people eat only meat and food from humanitarian aid, mainly corn flour. But during the rainy season, when hunting is difficult, they gather wild plants and honey from wild bees. Their diet follows the rhythms of nature. As a result of the settlements of farming tribes, large wild animals stopped migrating and the Hadza were pushed out of the areas rich in water. Without outside help, they would not survive. During the rainy season, it's really hard to hunt. The arrows are made of wood, so they absorb moisture. When they are wet and you try to shoot, the arrows don't fly straight to the target you are aiming at. You shoot in this direction, and the arrow goes that way. The vegetation is too dense. The bushes are thick. It's easy for the animal to escape, and you won't find them. A hunter cannot track when it's raining. The dogs also don't sense anything. They don't pick up the trail. Right now, it's very dry, so there is nothing to dig up. But during the rainy season, the time comes when women have a lot of work because the plants bear fruits and berries. At this time, they also gather white potatoes. There are enough of them because it's raining. There, that green tree, can you see it? From the beginning of September to mid-September, that tree has fruits and they eat them too. They are bitter, but good. 10 minutes later, we head out for the hunt, traditionally on an empty stomach and without water. It's still quite cool. We set off with brisk pace race through the dried-up bushes with a few scattered trees. Only a few show green leaves. I wonder how birds manage to live on these leafless trees. We don't go very far when suddenly the birds begin to catch his attention. The very first shot turns out to be accurate and successful. Kwe'elcze can't hide his excitement, even though catch is in the beak. Soon another attempt, this time without results. There will be many more trials like this today. Bird arrows have a special design. A piece of corn cob is attached at the sharpened end, or rather the beginning of an arrow, to protect the bird's meat from tearing. Such an arrow doesn't pierce the bird, it just stuns it. Kwe'elcze leads us further away from the village, moving from tree to tree and listening attentively. What catches my attention is the rhythm of his work, the alternating periods of activation of his sympathetic nervous system, orientation, focus, the slow narrowing of attention as he approaches the prey, drawing of the bowstring, and finally the shot. This lasts for several seconds, at most a few minutes, and then there is a release, marching towards the next tree. I watch as his nervous system works rhythmically in a repeatedly occurring cycle. Tension, release. The tension lasts no longer than a few minutes and will either end in success or failure, but in any case, it will come to an end. And before the next activation, then comes the time for release, in motion, out in the fresh air, and in nature. After a while, I start to notice cattle droppings on the ground. After 2 hours of hunting with 2 small birds hanging around his neck, around 8:30, we arrive at the Datoga tribe's homestead. Kwe'elcze doesn't seem to notice the herd of goats and cows. He's playing with his arrow as he is dissociating, or as if he was releasing tension, perhaps. I haven't seen such a reaction from him before. He doesn't make eye contact with 2 shepherds who, seeing us, start driving the animals in our direction. Kwe'elcze is doing his thing, trying to ignore them. He doesn't stop watching the treetops, even when we are clearly in the Datoga yard. There's a man watching us in silence from behind the buildings, and I sense tension. I'm witnessing a meeting of 2 cultures, a meeting whose dynamics I don't understand. Finally, the men enter the hut, and Kwe'elcze follows them. So, it's a neighborly visit. Kwe'elcze asks me to stay outside. I spend my time looking at the architecture of the Datoga houses. They are completely different from the Hadza houses, more labor-intensive and more durable too. After 15 minutes, Kwe'elcze comes out with a pouch of tobacco and 3 chewing gums. Another catch brings joy again. He manages to hit about once every 5 tries. Break for a cigarette. There will be 2 of them, about 5 minutes each. As usual, during breaks, we chat. Kwe'elcze is telling me about hunting. Some scientists believe that at least 70% of human communication is based on body language, and only about 30 is conveyed by word. When I'm with Hadza, I rely on those 70. The expression of his face, the prosody of his voice, rhythm of his breath, and body movements are surprisingly understandable to my nervous system. Despite the environmental and cultural differences that separates us, they seem to be universal. My neuroception works here too. 70% is enough for me to feel connected and to feel accepted and safe. I don't lack social contact. I don't feel isolated, even though I don't know his language. I do not experience an unpleasant feeling of loneliness here. I'm somehow sure my neuroception would detect any threat if it appeared. But I am not worried about sleeping by the same campfire, or traveling in unfamiliar territory alone with a hunter, thousands of kilometers from home, or even giving him my knife. It's the first time I see Kwe'elcze counting the birds he hunted.
Watano pa kuku kwanzia moja mbili tatu nne
Counting isn't a very popular activity here. I can't figure out how old people are or when and when they are telling me about place. That's why I'm very happy about this experience. And I'm curious, how do I know he's counting? Moche, Billy, Tat, Il, Tan, Zico, Zikotan? Or for example, does he name the hunted birds? Intuition. But turns correct. I later verified this with my guide and translator Alex. On the way back, we passed through the cultivated fields. I don't know what used to grow here, because everything is completely dry, but for sure this is land where the Hadza cannot hunt anything bigger than a bird. I notice his gesture, which reminds me the gladiator gesture from the movie, rubbing the sand in his left hand, where he holds the bowstring as he shoots. But there won't be a sixth catch, not now. But a moment later, luck is on his side. There is a sixth trophy. Turns out to be the last catch of the day. We arrive at the village around 10:30, exactly 4 hours after we set out. So, after subtracting the time spent with the Datoga on the farm and 2 cigarette breaks, it comes out to about 3.5 hours of pure work, resulting in bringing home 6 not so big birds. In the village, we meet tourists with a guide. It's not surprising at all. The village hosts about 5 tours a day during the season, with varying number of tourists, from couples to groups of a dozen or so people from all sorts of countries. Most groups tour the village, watching archery demonstrations, fire making and folk dancing, and a colorful account of the hunt performed by one of the hunters, and they leave. But some stay overnight in specially set up tents in a nearby clearing to go out hunting with the Hadza the next morning. The Hadza in this village are gatherers, hunters, and they work in the tourism business. Kwe'elcze shows his trophies to the tourists, but I can see that he is clearly tired. He gives the biggest birds to Cabana, who will probably make a meal for everyone, while he and his few friends prepare the smaller birds by the campfire. The smallest birds land in the embers. They keep some of the bird feathers. They will be used later for the arrow fletching. Today between 11 and 12 will be his first meal, and mine too, because I'm invited. And this guide is invited too. Chief Sakoro once said that when the meat is in the village, it belongs to everyone. Is it okay if I take a piece? The guide asked. I don't know why me. He rules here. I responded with a smile and point at Kwe'elcze. I hate blood, the guide says, putting back a piece of meat into the embers. It's time to have some fun. I haven't seen the Hadzabe training or doing any physical exercises besides archery competitions, but they easily accept my invitation to work out at the gym. It's getting close to 1 o'clock and it's getting hotter. People and dogs lie down in the shade of the trees to rest. It's getting quiet in the village. It's a rare time of the day when it's hard to find anyone by the fire. Kwe'elcze brings me an antelope pelt and he lies down on the ground with a stone under his head. It's one of the many nice gestures of care that I experience here. We rest lying next to each other for about 40 minutes. I'm dozing off. After 45 minutes of siesta, the men start to move. Kwe'elcze joins his companions, who are drinking gongo, a strong alcohol made from molasses, which local entrepreneurs sell to them. It's time for another meal. This time is manaketa, or ugali in Swahili, cornmeal that the Hadza buy or receive from the civilization, and they cook it with water. Until recently, they did not know grains. Their diet was based on meat during the dry season and on wild tubers, fruits, and honey from wild bees during the wet season. Migrations of farmers and pastoralists have significantly reduced the size of the Hadza's hunting grounds and pushed them into the barren, hard-to-reach areas without drinking water. Livestock breeding and farming have blocked the migration of large animals. Famine has forced the Hadza to accept food aid from those who are taking their land. It's interesting that they prepare the manaketa in just one very simple way, by cooking it with water. They don't make pancakes and they don't ferment it. Even though they use alcohol made from fermented flour, but they buy it from farmers, and they use a lot of alcohol. After the meal, the men gather again around gongo, a bit of chatting and some leisurely work. Here, it somehow comes together. Often work is done in a company. Someone is slowly doing or fixing something, either a bow or arrows, sitting among other people by the fire. This work never lasts too long, and I don't feel like it's done in a rush. I'm impressed by the soothing slowness of this work. Plastic bottles are commonly used here. Unwanted things are simply burned in the fire. Unfortunately, this is a common way of managing waste here, also in farming villages. There is a lot of plastic waste everywhere. Another group of tourists interrupts the lazy afternoon. Tourists are usually very willing to share what they have best with the Hadza. This time, it's cigarettes. And the Hadza always gratefully accept a gift. The shadows are slowly getting longer. The bonfires change, the alcohol changes, but the atmosphere of the lazy afternoon remains unchanged. In the late afternoon, another group of tourists arrive. They bring marijuana and alcohol. It's the first time I've seen such a gift here. The Hadza show me that they know how to use it. Am I witnessing the same process of drinking that I read about in childhood in books about Indians? The Hadza drink in the first generation, maybe the second. It seems they are completely unaware of the consequences. They are so trusting of everything we white people bring to them. I'm starting to feel sad. I'm not that abstinent, but the amount of alcohol and its prevalence here, even among children, scares me. I'm learning from them. I feel a huge curiosity about their lives. I eat everything they eat. I'm experiencing their life, but throughout the time I've been with them, I haven't tried either busa or gongo. I couldn't. I didn't even take a taste of any of those drinks. I realized that I won't change anything about it. Chief Sakoro does not drink nor smoke, but that doesn't mean anything to others, even though he has huge authority here. I will leave this tribe richer in many experiences, thoughts, and also in many flavors. The diet is doing me a lot good, even though I am definitely eating too little for my needs. But I won't find out what the smoked marijuana, tobacco, and alcohol taste like. I don't want to share this experience with them. These guests will stay for the night, so they can go hunting with Hadza in the morning, and they will spend the evening learning how to start a fire, how to shoot a bow at the target, and having a drinking party around the campfire. There is a lot of laughter, but I am not feeling happy. The next day, one of the Hadza men will steal the money his wife earned by selling beadwork to tourists. This is going to be quite a fuss. Alcohol and money in the hands of trusting people who take from nature what it gives, just as it gives, and as much as it gives. They don't store, they don't process. Until recently, they didn't know grains. They can't even produce alcohol themselves. They don't know private property. Or rather, they are just starting to learn all of this. The party with tourists is still going on, but for Kwe'elcze it was a long day, and he clearly looks tired. His active part of the day lasted about 14.5 hours. Usually it's around 16, of which he spent 4 hours hunting with me, and the remaining 10 hours with his people, in various social situations, connecting rest with food preparation and work in tourism. During this time, he ate 2 small meals. Around 7:30, he lights a fire at the place where we are staying and goes to bed early. I envy him the time he spends with his people, the people he has known since childhood and shares their fate every day. I'm going to miss that. I envy him for having his own flock.